Welcome to the Spin Wiz Comic Show.
Whoa.
From Raleigh, North Carolina. Join us for exclusive interviews with the publishers bringing you the newest titles in indie comics, webcomics, movies, and more.
No way.
And now, here's your host, Jeff Palumbo.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. I am always your host, Jeff Palumbo. It's the Spin Wiz Comic Show. Thanks for being here. It is great to have you as always. Hope your Sunday's going well. Hope your Labor Day weekend is going well for those of you that are watching in the United States. Happy holidays, all that fun stuff. And tonight, we didn't skip a beat. You know, even though I have tomorrow off, which is great. Spin Wiz Comics doesn't stop. We got more hotness every single day. And just like tonight, David Rucker on the show, if you can believe that. Last time he was on with the full crew. This time he was kind enough to jump in by himself just because I want to corner him. I mean, not like you're cornering like an animal and they're gonna like try to get out of it, but a little one-on-one time with Dave is never a bad thing. And the dude is damn near brilliant too. When we talked about hustle over the last couple people that we've been speaking with, David shows you what's up. David is the hustle, and that is for sure. And so we're going to talk about a couple things, specifically Decimation Earth and how that's going, how the Kickstarter went last time, some of the trials and pitfalls and tribulations he's had from Kickstarter, which I think a lot of people really haven't gotten into. And I really can't wait to hear about that. And then, of course, what's coming up for issue 2 of Decimation Earth. So there's no real reason for me to talk to you when I literally have him standing by right here. And so let's bring him in. David, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Hey, man.
Here. How are you?
Good, man. Thank you again for joining. I appreciate it, especially on Labor Day weekend. I know a lot of people travel and do all sorts of crazy. So the fact that you're making time for me and Spin Wiz Comic Show, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So let's jump right into the hotness. For those people that have not heard about Decimation Earth yet, it is on Spin Wiz Comics. I'm going to drop a link in here in a minute. So if you're on Facebook Live, you'll be able to see it. If you're on YouTube, just go below. Just keep scroll a little bit, and the link will be right there. So everything for Decimation Earth number 1 will be right there. Don't worry. And then obviously we'll be sharing Decimation Earth 2 when the Kickstarter goes out. But in the meantime, just go below and you can read it. It's fantastic. You'll love it. But let's tell people, if they haven't, just to wet their whistle a little bit. Give me that fine elevator pitch you've been working on for Decimation Earth number 1.
So it's Lovecraft meets the X-Men in 24. It's a film noir reinterpretation of the Cthulhu mythos.
Love it. I mean, that's the best way. Obviously, that is the nicest, shortest, and most dedicated elevator pitch I've ever heard. So, and it's been doing great. The Kickstarter was successful, yes?
Yes, it was. We were very successful with the Kickstarter. We went over our goal a little bit, which is always exciting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like you set a goal, you set a number, and then it's always exciting when you exceed that number. So we did go over our goal. But in the last few hours, it was very nerve-wracking.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
And I think it is for everybody, unless you're one of those very lucky. I wouldn't even say lucky. I think that's probably not the right word. If you are already have been in the industry for years and you launch a Kickstarter, it's a little bit different than coming out of the gate and launching one. Because usually they have thousands of followers, and you guys are really like, hey, this is what we got, and we're doing a Kickstarter almost immediately. So we know that you and I had talked a little bit, and I'm like, we'll save that for the show because that's good stuff. What are some of the trials and tribulations from a Kickstarter? Because even though you were successful in it, it was not easy, and then you learned some stuff along the way. Do you want to share any of that?
Yeah. So I think one of the first things is putting together the Kickstarter, putting together the right image that you want to put up, telling the right story, summarizing the story, bringing about the team and explaining the team, because you're pretty much selling yourself. It's not only the book, but you're selling the person behind it. At least that's in my opinion. And then once you get that done, it's always the video, putting together the video package that you have to put up there on Kickstarter. And that was a struggle for me because it was the first time I had to actually put together a video package and then sit there and actually pitch the book in a video. My wife, I think we did like 58 takes before we could get a semblance of videos that we could put together to make the pitch on Kickstarter. It was 58 takes. It was very tiring that day.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that is sitting down and putting together the rewards. And that's I think one of the hardest parts is like, what are the rewards we're going to offer? What are the tiers? And we were very generous on our Kickstarter. As we sat back and thought about it, we were very over generous. We made promises and then we over delivered to our supporters of our Kickstarter. Several of the people who supported us were like, called me up, sent me emails sent me texts and pics saying, hey, this is great. We didn't expect all this. Thank you and everything. But by over delivering, we also overextended ourselves a little bit on the project, and getting everything out, from ordering the envelopes. You never realize when you get the envelopes to put the stuff in the packages that when you take it to the post office, that's going to add to the cost of postage, or how much running down to the local FedEx to print off all these prints that you got to put in the envelope. It adds up pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, we're getting ready to launch another Kickstarter, I think here late September, early October. And I'm in the process of putting together the rewards. And it's this time around, we're trying to think more strategically on what tiers we're going to offer on this particular Kickstarter.
Yeah. And you told me something about shipping for Europe. What happened there? Just so other people don't do it.
Yeah. So if you go on Kickstarter, you could pick which countries you want to ship to. So they usually say how much for shipping. So when we started out, we only charged $2 for shipping in the US and $2 for Europe. When I went in to mail off a couple envelopes to Europe, it turns out shipping was $20.
Mm-hmm.
So can you imagine? So for an envelope that might have been $15 or $10, it turns out to be $30 or $50 because of the extra cost of shipping.
Damn.
Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah.
That'll eat up your profits pretty quick.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing. A lot of people go into Kickstarter, and this is just my opinion. Some people go into Kickstarter thinking that they're going to make a profit off of Kickstarter. Some people do. I'm sure they do. But our strategy is always we're going in to make the money to produce the book.
Yep.
We don't expect to get any money back into our pockets. It's about producing quality book.
Which it is.
Everything goes towards the book. Everything goes towards the rewards. There's nothing that we take and put in our pocket. I mean, if there's anything left over from that Kickstarter, we roll it over into the next Kickstarter and continue on moving with our books.
That's awesome. And when you do a Kickstarter, your books are done, right?
Yeah, pretty much our books are done when we do Kickstarter. When we do the Kickstarter, most of the money we're covering is the cost of printing and shipping of those books.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people. It seems to be I'd say over the last maybe couple years that I've seen the trend where people are like, hey, help us complete this book. And then bad stuff happens when they figure they don't make enough and they can't finish it. And then they still have to give out these rewards and people get all pissed. I think you guys are doing it the right way. They're like, no, this is done already. Like, it's already locked, stocked. We're good to go. We just want to be able to print it. And I think you guys are doing it the right way, for sure.
And that's our strategy. Our strategy has always been be able to continue from like this Kickstarter. We've been able to work on book 3. Book 2 is already assembled. So now we take that to Kickstarter and we have a set goal, a certain amount. We're not asking for an extraordinary amount. We're only asking for the cost to print the book, assemble the book, and get it out through the mail and get the rewards out. What's ever left from that will roll over to help us with to finish up book 3. So, yeah, that's always been our strategy.
Yeah, that's a much better business strategy, especially for a brand that's trying to expand and build that following. There's nothing worse than having to wait 3.5 months for your book.
Yeah.
And you're just like,
Yeah.
I don't even remember ordering this damn thing. Or if you do, you're all over them, and then bad things happen on social media because people get pissed. So, do you want to talk at all about issue number 2 and what you're going to kind of get into, or do you want to keep it secret for everybody?
Well, I'll give a little bit about issue 2. So for all those readers who's picked up issue 1, and I know, Jeff, you've already read issue 1, you're just going to dive right back in. It's like watching a TV show.
Doesn't skip a beat.
We don't skip a beat. We're going to hit the ground running, and we're going to keep hitting the ground running. There will be some surprises in issue 2, and there's some fantastic art that's in issue 2. We're going to expand on that. Shauna Lean has really pushed the envelopes on this one, on issue 2, and then on issue 3, I'll throw that out there. We're rotating artists, so we have Shauna Lean and then we have Bernie Cook. Bernie Cook is now working on issue 3, and he is really pushing the envelope with his art. So having 2 talented artists, it's funny because, you know, Sean will look at Bernie's work and say, okay, I got to step it up. And then Bernie will look at Sean's work. Okay, now I got to step it up. It's not like a competition, but it like drives each one of them to bring out the best of them.
That's awesome. And this does not look, I mean, you got pros on your team. I think people need to understand that even though you're coming out of the gate as relatively new, your art team is not.
No.
They've been around for quite some time. They know what they're doing. This stuff looks top notch, and I think that's what's really going to separate you. Obviously, the story is great as well, but a lot of people look at it for 2 things: does the story make sense, and is it a fun story, which yours is? But then does the art really pull me in? And yours does. Like, it looks like it could be on the shelf for anybody at any point in time. Like, even if you say, "Oh, this is DC," people would be like, "Oh yeah." Like they wouldn't think twice, and I think that's, now granted, that's if you like the DC style of art,
right?
Which a lot of people do. I mean, it has become the commonplace. But your guys, just, it could be on a shelf with any logo on it, from a publisher's perspective, and people would be like, "Yeah," they wouldn't even think twice. I think that's what's so good about it, is you are doing top tier stuff with your number 1, number 2.
Yeah, and you know, it was very humbling to see the team that came around this project. I mean, we have some serious talent that's been in the business for a while, and I'm truly blessed and thankful for them being part of this to help getting the book where it is right now, and now moving forward with the book. And it's only going to get better, you know. We're out there hustling every day. I'm hustling every day to try to make this book the best it can be, and to get it out there in front of everybody. You know, our next goal is, you know, we've got it on SpinWiz, we've got it on a couple other sites. Next goal is to get it in the retail stores, and see what we can do there.
Heck yeah, got to keep pushing, man. Get that out there, and then obviously, I mean, you need to put characters out there. I mean, I want my own, you know, group of action figures that I can set up.
It's funny that you bring that up, because I was talking to one of my close friends, Wally McNair, and we had been talking about, he had talked about vinyl characters, action figures and stuff, and I was starting to look around at that. A contact of mine put me in contact with someone who could do the rendering for the 3D, for creating action figures. It's just, that's something down the road to where we get to a position where we can do that. But you know, that is something that's in our forefront of our minds.
Yeah, you got to keep pushing that. And are you ever going to try to potentially put it into an anime or a live action? Like, you're going to try to pitch it out, and because it reads, excuse me, yeah, I guess that's the term. I'll use this term. I know it's not perfect, but it'll work. It reads like a screenplay. Like, you can see it being a movie. Yeah.
And we will get down to that road, see if we want to go there. I think it's going to depend on how well the book does and who shows an interest in it. We're totally open to that. And the beautiful thing about the way the story is, it's written in a script form. So it's designed in a way that, you know, I write it in a script form, and I leave enough room for the artist to play in that world. And that's why it's so visually beautiful with the art.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, like I said, it could easily just fit right. Again, I could see it coming on Netflix tomorrow and be like, yeah. Like, it's just one of those books. Some of them you really have to grasp, and you're like, no, this is great as a comic book. I get it.
Right.
But other ones can feed right in. Just like mine, I viewed it as an anime. Like
Right.
it really fits well with that genre. Will it come to that? I mean, I have to get enough time to actually start writing again instead of just running a business. But maybe someday. I mean, that'd be great.
Right. For us, if we did go down the road of anime, give us enough time to tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to give them that, and that's the only fear that I have, that we would not have enough time to fully tell the story.
Yeah.
Because you see it all the time when they adapt things from comic books or books. They try to take as much as they can out of the book and take the best and juicy parts and shift it around just to get it across the screen.
Yep.
And a lot of nuances and important things are missed.
Yep.
In the retelling of it. It doesn't mean it's not good, but you're going to always have those fans that are disappointed.
Oh yeah, because you get into that piece and you're like, well, what about this? Like that's what makes the comics and the books so good.
Mm-hmm.
That unless you've read them, like there's just there's nuances. It's not Easter eggs. It's just the fact that you're part of the story, and when they miss some of those really nice elements or very specific details that make the story what it is, you're just like, well, where the hell was that? Like, that was cool. Like, why didn't you put that in? And people that obviously have done these before, like, well, we had to take it out. It didn't hurt or really help the storyline, and we're trying to cut it down to 22 minutes for this one and stuff like that. But at the same time, you're like, yeah, but that's where the magic is. Otherwise, it's just a story.
Yeah, and I can give you a perfect example was Return of the King, which was Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
There were some parts they cut out in the book that kind of disappointed me. One part was when when they made the long journey into the cave, it was just the three of them, but in actuality, it was a company of them that went through the cave. Mm-hmm. And then there was more than just the three of them, and the ghost fighting on the field was a whole company of them when they came through and made the save on the Pelennor Fields.
Yep.
So that was, kind of disappointing to me. But, it's very important that in the creative process that if you do get to that point, I think you should really believe in your craft and stay true to your craft.
Yeah. And I can imagine that it's tough if people are tossing you $1 million to be like, hey, we want to put this on TV. And it's hard to say, okay, go ahead. Like, hard not to say when there's $1 million in your lap. Mm-hmm. Or, $250,000 plus the kicker of whatever it does for another season. And, however they do it. It has to be hard to say no to that kind of money when you may not have that kind of money. I mean, that's life-changing type money.
Right. I was put in a situation like that. It wasn't life-changing type money. It was like a small amount of money. But I had written another project for my master thesis, and I had sent it to a publisher, and they wanted to publish it. A while back, they came to me and asked me to sign over my rights to it because they didn't think they could make a lot of money off of it. And they'll say, hey, we'll just give you this token fee, and we can have the rights to your book and just do whatever they want with it. And I just was like, no, it's not about the money. It's just that I just don't want to give up something that I've put my heart and soul into. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to stick to your guns sometimes, man, for sure.
Right.
So changing gears a little bit before we turn this bad boy off and let people get back to their fantastic Labor Day weekend. Mm-hmm. Have you seen Lovecraft Country yet?
Oh, jeez. That's a sore point with me. I'm going to be totally honest with you.
Well, that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Oh, yeah, you saw my tweet.
Yeah.
So, for you out there, I tweeted out that I wasn't really feeling Lovecraft. I read the book and I felt it, and Jeff came back and showed his support on Twitter on that. But I think if I hadn't read the book, and if I'm not rereading the book, and I'm rereading the book right now, I would really enjoy the show.
Yep.
But because I've read the book and I'm reading it again, I'm kind of disappointed in certain parts of the show.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's people who are going to be, well, that's just your opinion. There are certain things that happen in the show that I think just, are unnecessary, in my opinion. I think the opening, I don't even know where that opening credit came from in the beginning of the show, because when I sat down to watch it, I was like, I have no idea what's going on here.
Really?
No, I don't remember that. It wasn't in the book.
Oh, wow. See, I never read the book.
Yeah, I was telling my wife, I was like, I don't remember any reference of him fighting in the trenches or the Princess of Mars coming down from a spaceship or Jackie Robinson battling Cthulhu. Mm-hmm. But I get what they were doing.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it. It wasn't in the book.
Yeah, and stuff like that is a kind of a creative, whatever the hell they call it. Mm-hmm. I jumped in because I was like, ooh, like I didn't know, not having read the book. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those times where they're not cutting it out, they're actually adding something. And I heard from you aren't the only person that's like, what the hell? And it really made me think. I saw the Dark Tower movie, and I love the Dark Tower. And it was supposed to be the Gunslinger, and I watched it, and I'm like, what book did they read?
Right.
Like what? Right. It wasn't about the fact that Matthew McConaughey was in it, or the fact that, Roland was. Who is that actor? He's fantastic.
Elba.
Yeah, Elba. Like I didn't care that he was black. Like I'm like, no, it doesn't matter to me. Like the story's a story. These are great characters. But what I didn't like is all these like skill shots and weird crap that was going on. I'm like, wait a minute, who the hell is this kid? There was no kid. Like this isn't even the same story.
Right.
Like certain little bits and pieces were, but it was so drastically destroyed that I hated it. I'm like, you took two of the best actors in Hollywood, and you put them in a book that could have been absolutely mind-blowing, just as much as Lord of the Rings, and you jacked it all up. Like somebody got in there, they're like, I read the book and I thought it'd be better this way. Are you kidding me? Better than and the problem is Stephen King is just like, hey, listen, I signed over the rights. I'm okay with whatever you guys do. I love seeing your adaptation. Like he is very much of that mind. That would have pissed me off.
Yeah, I agree. But the one point I would make with Lovecraft Country, they are staying true to the theme of the book.
Oh, that's good.
They're staying true to the theme of the book. They are still exploring the Jim Crow era and the racial tensions during that time, and the overt racism that was Lovecraft. They still stay true to that. However, the one part that I was disappointed on there was the opening scene of him on the bus and the lady. That didn't happen quite that way, but there was a scene in the book that I thought would have been more important to tell the story of what he was experiencing on his way home during the Jim Crow period. There was two incidents that happened to him there that I felt that was important.
On the bus or on his travels back?
Well, on his travels. So,
okay.
Yeah, on his travels, because in the book he wasn't on a bus; he was driving cross country.
Oh. He
drove cross country, and then it was his car that broke down instead of the bus, and so he had to walk into town to get a tire, and the gentleman wouldn't sell him a tire because he was black, and there was tension there. And then there was a thing he had, and then they went into about the Green Book, and that was a book that was created during the Jim Crow era for African Americans to be able to safely travel at certain places that would serve them, and not have to be worried about being harassed or denied services. And he walked up to a payphone, and he had to call a tow truck. That the guy was like 50 miles away. And while he's making the phone call, there was a woman on the porch that was giving him a hard time because he was black. She didn't say anything. She just stared at him. So he walks back to his car. He sits in his car, waits for the tow truck to come pick him up. After that, on his way home to Chicago, he gets pulled over by a state trooper who starts harassing him and questioning him. Is this his car? what's this? What's in the back of your car? Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to go.
No, I love that. That's exactly why I asked, because you're bringing some things that I didn't read the book.
Right.
And I think those would have been awesome. I wonder if they took them out and just because of all the racial tension that's here now, and that's happening to people everywhere, and it has been.
Right.
But I wonder if they took it out like, nah, we don't want people right out of the gate to be like yes or no. They didn't want it to be political. Or do you think that, or are you just like, no, they just wussed out and they're trying to cut down the scene of what happened?
Possibly they're trying to cut down the scene. I don't know what the thinking was behind it, but they did get the point across in the way that they told it. But I think, one of the things they changed is his uncle's child was a boy. But in the show, it's a girl.
Really?
Yeah. And his name was Horace. And he was who was writing the comic book about Thea Blue. I think that's what her name. And also, one of the things that kind of disappoint me is that his uncle wasn't the one who was out traveling, scouting for the Greenfoot. In the book, it was his wife who was doing the scouting. She was actually out on the road. And he was home watching the child.
Wow.
Yeah, and I don't even know where they came from about him getting his knee smashed in, because that was never in I don't know where that came from in the book.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff to change.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to change. But if I hadn't read the book, I would be enjoying the show.
I mean, are you trying to disassociate the book from? Are you trying to remove yourself from it just to try to enjoy the show? Like to see it just as it is, or can you not do that because the book is so legendary?
I can't. Let me put it this way: when I saw the trailer for the rest of the season, I was like, "This looks like they just turned this into an Indiana Jones movie." I mean, because I was just like, "Okay," but I've only seen the first episode, so I don't know what the other episodes were like. But if it's based off the trailer, I may be a struggle for me to go back and watch it. But there was a whole cast of characters in the book that made me even more invested in the book. There wasn't just his uncle, it wasn't just his dad. At one point, it's their Masonic Lodge gets involved to help them try to overtake the bad guys, to pull a fast one on the bad guys. And I'm not sure of it, and I don't want to. I'm just going to say this and throw this out there. I know the person who drove the silver Rolls Royce Phantom. That was a male, not a female in the book. And when the car came to rescue, when that car came and caused the other truck to flip over, no one ever got out of the car. It just blinked its lights as Atticus and his uncle fled. No one ever exited the car and watched them go down the road. And I'm nitpicking here, and I apologize. So.
You don't apologize. I mean, this is an interview for a reason, man. I love hearing this stuff.
Yeah.
Because I haven't read the book, and I honestly thought I watched I watched episodes 1 and 2. I'm on episode 3 right now, and I thought their transition, and I don't know if the book does this or not, and which is why I really want you to watch episode 2, and then part of 3, because it felt very rushed and it felt very unanswered, and I don't know if they button hook back to that, but the way that they transitioned from 1 to 2, I understood, but from 2 to 3, I'm just like, wait a minute, you just left all that behind. Like, you're not bringing it up again. The fact that you're, part of this big family thing and you have magic powers potentially, and like they're just kind of like meh. And
so in the book, sorry to interrupt. So in the book, the way they transitioned out of that situation, they left and they went back to Chicago. And it was like they were going through their normal paces of life, and they were talking and doing things, and then the bad guys came back.
Oh, okay. I haven't gotten to that piece yet. Then.
Yeah, and started secretly injecting themselves and manipulating situations for them to get involved. Now, let me ask you this: has his the female, I forget her name, who's playing Journey Smollett, has she purchased the house yet?
Yep, just did. That was that was the beginning of episode 3.
Okay, so she's purchased the house. Okay,
and I've only gotten to the part where she's just started opening it up to people to come in. So she cleaned it with her sister, and now people are starting to move in. And some white people. It's obviously a white neighborhood. At least it is in the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have basically put bricks on the horns and tied them up so that there'd just be horns 24/7 in the neighborhood from their car. And then I stopped before it started getting whatever cool stuff was about to happen. I stopped because it was like 1:30 in the morning, and I'm like, I can't, like, I want to enjoy this, and I'm falling asleep. So that's where it's at.
Has anything weird happened with the house yet?
Not yet. That's what it said. They did preface the fact that people started disappearing.
Oh, okay.
So they did say that what was it? I think they said that X amount of people, 10 people moved in, and 3 people were never heard from again.
All right, that didn't happen in the book. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know if it was foreshadowing or I think that's the way it was from the first tenant.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously they just left it, and that's how Journey picked it up. So I think that was the between piece.
Right. Well, they kind of put a twist on the story from what is different in the book. I'm not going to go any further because if I tell you, it's going to ruin
whatever's going to happen.
Else. Yeah, what's going to happen. But I'm at the point where I'm rereading the book. She's purchased a house, and now they've moved on to her sister, Ruby.
Okay, I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, and her sister, Ruby, has a very interesting story in the book. And I have to come back to the show because I want to know if they're going to do that story with Ruby. But I don't. I'll have to wait out and see if I can work up the nerve to watch the show again because, like I said, I got annoyed really quick.
Yeah. Well, now I'm requesting nicely that you do because now I really want to see the difference because I'm going to read the book after I'm done with the show. Mm-hmm. I'll go back and I'll read the book because I found that most books are way better than shows.
Right. Right.
The only other one that I heard that stayed really close to the script was Lock and Key.
Yes.
I heard that stayed really close to the comic. They made the kids annoying to the fact because they knew that adults would be the main ones watching it. Mm-hmm. So they made them annoying. They would just piss adults off. So they kept a lot of that stuff. The keys they kept all the same.
Right.
So I heard that was actually pretty true to the comic.
Right.
And I heard Umbrella Academy, at least season 1, was pretty true to the comic as well.
Yeah, they're staying pretty true to Umbrella Academy. I haven't really read a whole lot of Umbrella Academy. I mostly follow the Nerdist, who pretty much does critique on the Umbrella Academy. Mm-hmm. And they've been like, yeah, they've stayed true to this. They've moved some things around. Be interesting how they're going to go with it. But yeah, I think for more successful things, and when you deal with comic books and books, is if you could stay true to the story as much as possible.
Yep.
And still get across the theme of the story visually on the screen.
Yep. And I think we can come back up after I put this on YouTube, or if you're watching on YouTube now, we're going to come back in 3 years when David has this on the big screen. And I'm going to be like, we need to revisit. We're going to watch this together and see just what happened with the comics that I've read and your graphic novel, volume 1.
Right.
And how much is it different than, and you just be here like this. Yeah, I'm not going to answer any of those questions. We're just going to forget that ever happened.
Yeah, we're just going to forget that ever happened. Worst mistake I ever made in my life. I distance myself from that.
Yeah. I love Lovecraft County. I love it. Best video ever. Yeah. Best show ever. Well, listen, man, it is time to wrap this bad boy up.
All right.
I appreciate your time. Is there anything else you want to talk about while we're here?
I'd just like everybody be on the watch for our launching of our Kickstarter, which will be early October.
We'll share it for sure.
Right. You can follow us on Instagram at Decimation Earth IX. We're on Twitter at Decimation E. Those are the best places to follow us. We have some exciting rewards. I'm working on them right now that we're going to be giving for the Kickstarter. I can hint that one of them will be a Zoom call with the entire crew.
That's
where
awesome.
Where you can ask any kind of question you want on about the book and our creative process and how we came together. We'll also be, as we did last Kickstarter, we will also be giving away signed scripts of our comic book. And there's a lot of other things we'll be offering too. So it's going to be a pretty good Kickstarter.
That's awesome, man. Well,
thank you.
As always, keep me in the loop so I can share it and stuff like that.
Definitely.
That's what we
do. Jeff.
Well, hang on the line with me real quick. I'm going to sign off with everybody else, and then I'll be right back to you.
All right.
Hang out with me just one sec. Ladies and gentlemen, David Rucker in the house now, leaving Decimation Earth. Go check it out. It's amazing. Thank you again for your time, buddy. I appreciate it, especially during a holiday weekend. I'll be with you in just a moment.
No problem.
All right. So that was David Rucker. What a cool dude, right? I mean, I get a lot of nerdy people on this show because obviously we're all writing comic books, right? I mean, it's not. I don't think there's any secret that a lot of us are kind of nerdy. But the dude knows Lovecraft inside and out more than probably anybody I've ever met. In his passion with Decimation Earth, it shows. So I want everybody to at least go read it. And then it's on Spin Wiz Comics. The link's in here. The link's down below. It's not like it costs you anything. David wants you to read it. Like, that's his thing. He wants you to read it. So go read it. If you like it, buy the PDF. Toss him a couple bucks. I mean, what's the worst that happens? You help him create issue number 2 so he doesn't have to stress for the next Kickstarter. I mean, come on. There could be worse things. So everybody, I hope you have a great weekend. Thank you again, especially on Labor Day weekend coming in. If you're on YouTube, thanks as always. Smash that subscribe button. And then we'll be back on Wednesday with another great interview with somebody that I can't remember. And spread the word. And remember, just so everybody remembers now, we also have an app. So go download the Spin Wiz Comics app, both on iOS and Android. And you can read Decimation Earth right from that, either page flip or scrolling. It's super sexy. Trust me. It's going to be amazing. Until then, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. We'll see you on Wednesday. Have a great one. Later.